Why is UCLA so disrespected? I mean, the Bruins are 7 to 8 point underdogs against UConn. Here's why UCLA will end the Paige Bueckers UConn career by getting to the national championship game. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. It's your team every day. And where we get started, hey, this episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Head to 5hourenergy.com. Find over 15 flavors to choose from. If you need one now, go grab a 5-Hour Energy from your local grocery or convenience store. Stock up today and stay energized for the UCLA Final Four matchup at around 6:30 Pacific against the UConn Huskies. All right, on April the 4th when we post this pod. UCLA, if you look at FanDuel, 7.5 point underdogs to the UConn Huskies in their Final Four matchup. You can see lines as great as 8.5, but on FanDuel, UCLA is a 7.5 point dog in Tampa in their technical first Final Four ever in program history during the NCAA era of women's college basketball. Like, why are ESPN experts choosing UConn? Why is everybody picking UConn to get to the championship game? Well, of course, they're going to push the narrative that they want Paige Bueckers in the final, one of the best players in college basketball to win her championship, go beat the you could argue the villain, South Carolina. I don't know who was their villain this year, but you could argue that there's the evil empire of all-time UConn. You've got the new dominant team in South Carolina. You got the newbies in Texas and UCLA of sorts, and you're like, okay, that's what we got. The ratings, they would want Texas, they would want South Carolina and UConn with Paige Bueckers, and then UConn would dominate that matchup. That's my thought. But what's the disrespect? Like, how can we not forget that UCLA's got the coach of the year, got the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, one of the best defensive players in the country, the most dominant force in the post that nobody can match offensively and defensively with the rebounding. And UCLA, I'm not going to say they're going to shoot better than UConn. That does not happen. UConn has one of the best shooting teams in the country, but UCLA does have shooting that can match it enough. All right. The Bruins don't need to outshoot the Huskies from deep to make this a game worth dominating for the Bruins. All right. So what UCLA has in this game, as I grab my numbers, here we go, back on screen. Let's roll. UCLA. All right. They're taking on a UConn team. I pulled up the numbers. Basically the best shooting team in the country when it comes to field goal percentage. One of the best in the country when it comes to 3-point shooting percentage. And that's where their big difference between anybody else UCLA's played is they shoot the ball well and they're elite from three. That's why that Richmond second round matchup was so helpful for UCLA, because the Spiders shot so well. It was a test for UCLA to prepare for a matchup like UConn, a team that shoots well, that can shoot a lot of threes. Richmond has taken 854 threes this year. That's where their season ended. UConn, in an extra game or two, had 866 threes attempted. All right. So that Richmond game UCLA played was a huge prep a couple rounds earlier, a couple weeks ago, for this UConn game. What UConn doesn't have is the post. They have the shooting to beat UCLA. Absolutely. They could beat the Bruins. But they don't have the post. Sarah Strong's elite, a bigger guard that could and may get the matchup. Jana El-Alfi could be somebody who could work a lot with Lauren Betts in the post. But if you look at the numbers for El-Alfi, she started the majority of the games and plays 16 minutes a game. You're telling me against the best post player in the country, somebody who plays 16 minutes a game is going to come out and dominate it? Well, USC and some teams have had post players go and they just go use your fouls. Go be physical with Betts, get her in trouble, frustrate her. But UConn is guard dominant, shooting dominant, from Bueckers to Strong to Fudd. Even the transfer point guard or transfer guard in Caitlin Chen. This is a guard-oriented UConn team under Gina Auriemma. All right. So what is UCLA going to do? Well, one, UCLA is just as good of a shooting team because they can feed it to Lauren Betts, and she can shoot 90% from the floor, and that's not an outlier because of her footwork, her ability to get in the post, and UConn does not have that post threat. What happened in that UCLA loss and losses to USC? Well, Juju shot the ball well and went supernova, and they had the post presence that could frustrate Lauren Betts. UConn doesn't really have that. They have some size. They can maybe frustrate her. They have the shooting. And what I've tried to wonder is South Carolina's got some physicality, but I don't think they have the shooting to beat a UCLA if they get to that next round. I don't think Texas has the shooting to beat UCLA if they get to the championship game. UConn absolutely can shoot the lights out of the rock and get deadly hot and blow this game wide open. I am not discounting that theory. But for everybody to doubt UCLA, you got Corey Close, who's like, this is the most hated, discounted, number one overall seed in the history of any sport. You could argue that for a team that is healthy, has one of the best players in the country, a coach that won Coach of the Year, this is the most disrespect I've probably ever seen a number one overall team ever get, heading into the Final Four, when they're, to my knowledge, completely healthy. All right. Sometimes, of course, yes, if an injury changes things, but no, they come in healthy, playing well. They've avenged their only losses by beating USC in that championship game. They went and took down LSU when Lauren Betts was not in the game in foul trouble, and they still won that game somewhat pulling away. All right. And we're just sitting there like, this team can't beat them. I brought up some numbers I thought were interesting. UCLA has played 10 teams in the top 50 in the country in terms of 3-point field goal percentage. All right. So the top 50, and mind you, there's over 300 plus teams who shoot the ball. These are the top 50. A lot of them were in Big Ten play. They shot the ball because UCLA's post-oriented. The rest of the Big Ten teams can shoot the ball. This is what you look at. UConn is one of the best 3-point shooting teams. So they're ahead of every team on this list or close to it. So UCLA's played Richmond, Nebraska, Washington, Indiana, Creighton, Maryland, Michigan, Iowa, Penn State, Illinois, and they played Nebraska twice. Okay. Against 6 of those teams, UCLA held them to less than their 3-point field goal percent average per game. So against Nebraska, top 15 in shooting the three. They shot 15% from three in the first matchup. Against Washington, held below their average. Indiana held below their average. Creighton held below their average. Maryland, below their average. You get the trend. Michigan held below their average. So I just listed 6 teams UCLA's played in the top 25 of 3-point shooting in the country, and they held them all below their average in their mostly only matchup this year. They went to Iowa. Iowa was right on average of their shooting at Iowa in a packed out place. Penn State, where UCLA played a home game at Long Beach State at the Walter Pyramid, Penn State shot a little bit better. The Bruins still in a sluggish game won that game, and that was during all the fires, and they were displaced. Illinois shot 40%. Richmond in the tournament shoot overall averaged 38% from three, shot 42%. But we remember UCLA won that game by 17 and outscored the Spiders by 22 in the third quarter. 29-7. So even a game where you could argue Richmond was red hot, did their best to keep it tied in the first half, UCLA still won that game going away in utter dominant fashion. UCLA only allowed the Spiders to shoot 33% in the second half, including 1 of 6 from three. So I just spit a lot of numbers at you guys. Let's digest this. What does that mean? So against the top 25 teams that they faced who can shoot the ball, almost in every instance, UCLA has kept them under their average. And not once in these matchups against teams who shoot the ball really well have they come out, and even if they shot better, they didn't shoot 50% or go lights out. It took a supernova Juju effort to beat UCLA the first time. And then her, as a unique superstar, could go block Lauren Betts shots, could go steal the ball, score the ball, and do everything. That's as great as Paige Beckers is. I don't think that's what she can do like Juju. All right. And Paige Beckers is elite. Fudd is really great. Sarah Strong, different matchup and is elite and might get that matchup undersized against Betts. They might put El Alfie. I'm not sure what Gino's going to do. It'll be an interesting one. But Juju presented a unique matchup because she could equally play weak side ball defense and come back and recover defensively and make sure Lauren Betts didn't score, while also scoring basically 40 in a game. That not many players can do that, and I don't think Paige Becker's in that list. She can put up 40, absolutely, but I don't think she could play the on-ball defense like Juju could on Lauren Betts, all right? So I just gave you numbers where in every instance, UCLA has not been torched from three. The opponents UCLA have faced this year shoot 29% from downtown. In the three UConn losses, the opponent from USC to Notre Dame to Tennessee have all kept up with UConn from the three-point line. And in all three of those games, UConn has shot 25% from three. One of those games was played without FUD, okay? But UCLA has to keep up. They don't need to match 10, 12 threes, but if it's like 8 to 9 threes to 11, I think UCLA's doing pretty well in that matchup if they've kept up decently three-point shooting, right? If it's 7 threes to 9, I think they're doing okay. So if UConn is cold, that means UCLA is probably doing a good job because they have the upper hand in the post. They should, absolutely should. Now, UConn, since they're pretty much an all-guard lineup, will have a significant upper hand in the backcourt. And I've already talked about it earlier in the week. This is where Hawkes is huge. This is where Gardner or London Jones have to come through. All right? You mix in a couple of big shots from Barker. Maybe you see Kendall Dudley come in to play defense, and you sacrifice some offense, and UCLA has to work on feeding the ball to Lauren Betts efficiently and not turning over the basketball. They cannot do so if they feed Betts. Now, there's another thing UCLA has to do, and this is generally their flow of their games. We'll talk about it next on Locked On UCLA. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps. Before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. And with Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. Be covered in less than 10 minutes. In many cases, no health exam is required. Think about it as a parent. You want to protect the family, make sure they're financially protected no matter what happens. Fabric can help give you that peace of mind. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Well, baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, this is all you have to do. You pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It can be strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs. Prize Picks can help keep the game exciting for you. To build your lineup this week, you're thinking, hey, maybe with the torpedo bats, Aaron Judge is going to hit more than 1 home run, and maybe think, okay, Shohei Ohtani might not steal as much, but you can say for more than 1 stolen base, he's going to get that. All right, check out on that. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, cruising on. We're talking UCLA, UConn, Final Four. I'm saying UCLA is going to shock everybody. 7.5-point dogs to UConn in the Final Four. UCLA's had more rest. They played earlier. They could sit and scout the UConn matchup. They didn't have to fly across the country for their second round. They do have to fly across the country for the Final Four, but UConn had to do that as well with less rest in a tough game against USC, which unfortunately with Juju hurt was not too much of a game until UConn put it away in the second half. What does UCLA need to do in this game? Well, key players. Hawkes needs to have a similar impact like she did against LSU, like she did at times in the Big Ten tournament, what made her an honorable mention All Big Ten member. It has to happen. This is where the combination of either Tamia Gardner or London Jones, too, in terms of another key player, must be lethal from 3. They're not going to outshoot Paige Beckers. They're not going to outscore her. But if one of them or both of them combine for 3 to 4 threes, that can add up to 7. That can help UCLA significantly when it comes to their area weakness, consistent 3-point shooting. Now, they shoot it much better than other teams. Corey Close has constructed this team with multiple shooters. Kiki Rice must have one of the best games of her life in this one against Paige Beckers. All right. This is not a matchup that favors UCLA's starting point guard when it comes to a shooting matchup, a turnover-prone matchup. This is one of those games where Kiki has to hit a couple of those threes, go 2 for 3, hit those open knockdown J's, get to the cup, and not turn it over when passing it to her teammates, whether it be on the perimeter or feeding it to the post for Lauren Betts. Those are different matchups UCLA has to look at, but I'm looking more X factors. That's Jaquez, and that's the Gardner-Jones line for UCLA. Which of those UCLA players can step up against what's going to be an all-guard lineup? And I wonder if Corey Close will lean with a youngster in Kendall Dudley to go athleticism defensively while sacrificing some offense. Definitely not in the starting lineup, but most likely we'll see it in the rotation coming off the bench. I would think so. I would think so. Now, the key thing that's happened for UConn in their losses is generally they haven't pulled away in the first quarter of games. When they played Tennessee, Tennessee was pretty close there. UConn led by 2 at Tennessee after 1. It was close in the second quarter before the Vols put up a big third and won 80-76 eventually. Then against Notre Dame, mind you, without Fudd, Notre Dame had a huge lead early. UConn came back late, and Notre Dame put them away, but led after the first quarter, led after the second, and won 79-68. Against USC in their home arena, UConn was down big early. USC was up double digits in the first half. We've seen UCLA do the same thing. UConn fought back and nearly came all the way back, but USC maintained the lead throughout. So UCLA, one of the best first quarter teams, comes out to big spurts. They need a big spurt. In the last few games against Ole Miss, Richmond, LSU, the Bruins haven't exactly showcased that ability to have that knockout punch in the first quarter like they tend to. They need to do that. And kind of reading, I think there was an ESPN article writing about their predictions, keys to the game, and I thought, okay, interesting. And they're like, yeah, UCLA is one of the best first quarter teams. In the second quarter, though, UCLA can be a little lackluster. You can't have that second quarter lull. And they did not against LSU when Lauren Betts went to the bench, sat for 14 minutes of that 20-minute first half against the Tigers, and the Bruins went to the locker room with the lead. Now, they could never put away LSU until the very end. Even though the Bruins could have maybe won that game by 10, they just were unable to put away Johnson and Kim Mulkey and the LSU Tigers, which is credit to them. It was a fight. It was an absolute battle in the Elite Eight. Now, UCLA, if they get that chance to put away UConn early, you have to close it. Because UConn, if they're down 10, has the shooting to come back in an instant. Even if UCLA is up 10, believe that UConn will make it a game and cut it to 2, whether there's 2 minutes left, 15 minutes left. Oh, UCLA goes up 10-0. Okay, UConn is going to make a run, and probably a couple at that. Now, if they're shooting 7 for 28 from 3, 25%, that's the number. UConn has shot less than 30% from 3 in all 3 of their losses. So if you go to the Final Four and you're watching this game, you're like, uh-oh, the Huskies have thrown up a couple of bricks. Could look good for UCLA. But if Beckers comes out and has scored 15 in the first quarter, you better hope Lauren Betts has at least 12 and UCLA is within striking distance, okay? Because somebody has to keep up with the scoring. I do think UCLA win this game. It's kind of shocking that from all the lack of respect they've gotten from the national poll writers, the idea is that they want Paige Beckers to go out to the championship, be the number 1 pick, go, I think the Wings have the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft right now. It would be funny if the LA Sparks had the 1 pick. It'd be like, oh, UCLA in the Final Four and then be a Spark, but that's not how it's going to play out. Her be a champion, beat South Carolina, UConn on top, they get 12 championships. Oh, they've got the most in basketball. No. UCLA's got to step up for their legacy because this team is going to be even better next year, even better with Sienna Betts, Ledger Walker coming off injury, with all of this team is returning, and they have a chance to go back-to-back, a clear chance to go back-to-back. But you've got to make sure that they're ready to go. And I was reading something like last 10 to 15, maybe 20 years. I could be a little off on that. ESPN had written something about how the teams who win, though, either have coaching championship pedigree experience or players with experience. And it even took Dawn Staley a chance to get to the Final Four before she returned and won that championship at South Carolina. And now she's obviously won multiple and built a national brand and a dominant program where she is absolutely fantastic. Now the idea is, can Corey Close and UCLA, the new kids on the block, get into the Final Four like, hey, we're here. Can they go win? USC was clearly good last year. They couldn't even beat UConn, and UConn wasn't even fully healthy last year. Caitlin Clark tried to get there a couple times, unable to do so. So UCLA is doing something where, they haven't been to the Final Four once yet in this run of modern history or in the NCAA's history of sponsoring women's college basketball. They haven't done so. So can UCLA, where you could argue Corey Close, a lot of criticism after their loss to LSU last year. But clearly, with the recruiting, the offseason, the teaching, and the in-game management and coaching decisions against LSU this season, helped lead her team to victory with all the players stepping up as well. So this is not your typical, they're not ready for the moment. This is a team that's been, we want to get there. They've been breaking down. And I don't think they have to falter in the Final Four to be that team that can go win a national championship for the first time in program history since the late 1970s, pre-NCAA for women's college basketball. They don't have to. But the numbers don't lie, and that's what they'll point to. Paige and Gino, they've been here. It's just a matter of time. It was a story of determination and resilience. Well, UCLA has the same type of story in a different mindset and trying to make a new thing happen. And I think they will. It won't be easy. Absolutely not. But bring on the UConn hate, and let's go UCLA. I guess shock the world as the number one overall seed that everybody's forgotten that they're huge underdogs. Let's go. UConn's a great team. I'm not taking anything away from them. But the fact that UCLA is getting just pushed away to the side, like, what? Are you kidding me? Interesting. Well, daylight savings had snuck up on us again. And hey, maybe you're feeling a lost hour of sleep. 5-hour energy's got your back, though. The extra sunshine means more time for more fun. But maybe you need a little boost to power you through. Whether you're staying up late to watch the NCAA tournament, watching the UCLA Bruins take on UConn, or you're going to squeeze in an extra round of golf after work, or do all those things to keep up with the busy day, 5-hour energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up. And hey, I've been staying up late to watch all sorts of games, whether it was baseball across in Japan, watching tournament games, busy days. The 5-hour energy helps keep me up for this day and keeps me up with the next day too. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango. You can even build your own 12 or 24 pack delivered right to your door. If you need one now, go to grab a 5-hour energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. It's going to do it for us here with Locked On UCLA. There will be more content. I will react right after the game to the UCLA-UConn matchup. Am I going to eat my words, or am I going to be right where, hey, UCLA is going to end the collegiate career of Paige Bueckers tonight against UConn? I'd like to believe that's true, wholeheartedly. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8-clap time. Time to prove those doubters wrong. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.